Almost 3 hours back, we promised the SDO that we are gentlemen, we are peaceful, and we have never meant any violence. I want to congratulate you for being very civil, because we do not intend to cause any trouble. Our idea is to make our point heard. It is now more than a month that we have been on strike after having notified the government about our dissatisfaction with the erosion of the common law.
It is now more than a month since you have been on strike, since notifying the government of your dissatisfaction. The month turns into months, the months into years. The months, the months within which the 2 cubes of sugar Barrister Bobga were supposed to be dissolved, it turned into 9 years. How do you explain that for a country with all the money and all the military machinery that it has? What do you attribute this to?
Well, I can tell you it's a long, long story. We had our common law lawyers conference, in the first quarter of 2015. Then I traveled to the United States for a wedding. And when I came back, my colleagues, particularly Agwobala, was rushing me that we need to do something. It was a little bit comic, but we're not dealing with the water under the bridge. Truth about it is that we had given the government 6 months within which to respond way back in 2015 to our grievances. And the government never did anything about it. We wrote to the Commonwealth embassies in Yaoundé, that is the British Embassy, the British High Commission, the Canadian High Commission, and the Nigerian High Commission, as well as the US Embassy. I got the letters. I made sure that they were posted by DHL. And we also moved on to file a petition before the famous Constitutional Council. At the time, it was not the Atangana Clement who was presiding. The president of the Supreme Court was deputizing for the Constitutional Council pending their setup, which eventually came to pass. But, we had decided that since they were giving us a deaf ear, we were going to go to court. And I was the strategist. And of course, this is not tooting my horn. All the conceptual work came from me, but I shared with my colleagues. And when we're going up to court, the idea was to enter the Court of Appeal, all of us, the lawyers who had come from Southwest and us in the Northwest. And I was going to move the court and say that we're not going to continue to wait on these people because we have asked them very sensitive questions. We want the court to make a pronouncement that we can have either to add on to what was in the Constitutional Council or to move on to another jurisdiction, as I expressed in Canal de International, when I said, we're still offering you the opportunity to discuss a fixing of the foundation that was not properly laid in Fumban, because Fumban was never completed. And we could move on from there to start talking about a federation based on mutual recognition and respect, and tying people down like Ahijo's offer that they will not tamper with our statutes, will be okay. And that was what, was projected and lured people after the British and the NATO members conspired to deny us expressly the opportunity of accession to full independence on our own feet. as Honorable Joa put his feet on the ground, and Foncha now was agreeing with Endeli that we should ask for a full access to independence, as was agreed in the Manfi conference. But here we are. The Cameroon government, I would say that the Cameroon establishment, please, let's use the word establishment, because sometimes we confuse the people whose brains have been brainwashed with the people who are ruling the country. The establishment.
Yeah.
They are the ones who are offering themselves as a mask for the foreign interest that is perpetuating the predicament of Southern Cameroon, just as well as that of the Republic of Cameroon. But here is the difference. There is a contractual arrangement between France and La République du Cameroun that was offered as a precondition for their independence. We don't have an act of union with Cameroon. We don't have a cooperation agreement with France, what they call Accord de Coopération, where
Right.
France gave independence with the right hand and with the left hand and took it back with the right hand. So we insisted, I personally insisted on non-violence, because I trust what the brains of lawyers can do. It might take a little long, but if you look at every revolution, this is exactly what happens. You go, you fight, you still come back to negotiation. And who are the best negotiators? The lawyers who understand the dynamics of dispute transformation from disagreement to peace and understanding. But I can tell you, on a consistent basis, the La République du Cameroun kept walling up against us. And sadly, our own people fell into the trap, because I said we should progressively build the lawyers to a point where we will get the medics, we get the engineers, we get various professions organized in Southern Cameroon before we form the network of professionals that is elite for service and not elites who are predators. And when we were not having this response, I asked myself, what's really going on? My colleagues had come up with the idea of, having a network beyond lawyers too far. I reluctantly agreed to it because I'm not a dictator. I told them, okay, you have a brilliant idea. We need to market it and let people stock it in before we proceed. But if you insist, go ahead. My vice from Northwest Lawyers Association will represent Northwest lawyers in that outfit. And I am going to be preoccupied with running the lawyers' game, because I was the most senior of the leaders of the lawyers in Amazonia who was engaged in the process. Because you had me for the Northwest region, and then the Southwest had 3 presidents of 3 different associations. The FACO lawyers, which was led by Agbobala. There was the Meme lawyers, which was eventually led by Eyambe, who is now in Kondengi. And of course, there was our sister, who was the lone lady in the group. You see her in the picture on my right hand when I was making that speech. Now, when they got to the head, Neba Fontaine, who had invited me much earlier to be an advisor to the English-speaking university lecturers syndicate, now joined, to us that we need to come together quickly and take advantage of the momentum. I agree. But I told them, you deal with this. Mind you, he was so interested in leading. And when he met Bala in Boya, Bala called me and in his presence and said, Nibobga, hell no. Lawyers cannot be dealing with something and other people are leading. We have to lead. Before that, the first press release of the consortium, and I'm the one who gave the name the consortium, had already been issued by Neba Fontem as president of the consortium. Bala said, no way. So they settled their disagreement and went against my advice because I told them, recruit as many as organizations as possible, and then we will have a constituent meeting of the consortium. And like we know in company formation, you, the promoter, when you have invited the shareholders and they have bought the share, you hold a general assembly, they will be the owners of the company who will now determine who will rule the company. You may be compensated for the spade work you did. But they saw that this idea was not going to give them their position. So they settled, and Neba Fontaine became the Secretary General and Bala the President of the consortium. And that is, like Fumban, another foundation with a crack. There is a lot that ensued after that. And what happened in the first, second, and third conclaves in Nigeria, all of which I was invited to, but I said I'm not going because I wasn't sure. I knew that it was not safe ground. I can now tell you, especially when I was dissuading you during my headship of the triumvirate, that you should not immediately go to Nigeria after the abduction of Siseko and Co. My classmates, lawyers with whom I trained in Calabar and Nigerian Law School, they are everywhere in the Nigerian government, some in the Secret Service. They told me, Harmony, keep your distance from Nigeria. I didn't need to announce that, but I advised that it is not safe. I have an office in Nigeria. I had an office in Nigeria up to 2010. I schooled there. I'm functionally a Nigerian lawyer. I advise that the waters are too hot for anybody to venture into it. And right from Cameroon, there were snitches that participated in the organization of the first, second, third, and fourth conclave. That's a discussion for another day. But to tell you the truth, what is going on now in La République de Cameroon, I want to thank you especially for this opportunity, because I want to tell Southern Cameroonians, you have never legally been part of La République de Cameroon. We were simply overrun and occupied. And this explains why, after I filed the petition before the Constitutional Council, and one of the prayers was, show me the Act of Union, that file has been pushed under the carpet. Nobody wants to touch it. They are not rushing for it like to declare the fake election. And they called us. Balade persuaded me that we should go to Yaoundé and have a meeting that the government had organized. First thing is, they were not dealing with us who were involved directly with our complaint. They brought some CPDM lawyers who were pro-government, and even brought Francophones. And when I got there, I said, hey, this is not going to work. People told me to calm down, let us just talk and so on. I said, okay, let's go ahead. And I saw their agenda, I corrected it and distributed it, and it was rejected.
Okay.
In fact, there was a lady who was sent, a Secret Service lady who was sent to shadow me. She saw me. I was very different from what they had presented, and she told me to be careful. It was not because she liked me. It was not because she was prepared to betray her own side. It was a divine intervention. And when my book comes out, you will see the details inside. Maybe I'll allow you to march on with your question. You must have a full basket for me.
I absolutely do. I absolutely do. Now, you chronicle from 2016, 17 to today. I said in my monologue that when we started this, Francophones saw us as troublemakers. Never for once did they condemn the killing on the streets of the southern Cameroon's Ambazonia. Never heard their musicians take to the public composing music condemning the regime in Yaoundé. Their politicians never for once say to their leaders, you have to stop the pogroms you are committing in Ambazonia. But today, after the October 12 elections, the perception on that side is, let Ambazonia join us, let's fight for this, after we'll talk. Do you see any logic in that? What, in your opinion, should Ambazonia do? Join them to fight for La République du Cameroon? Now take note, every time a change has been effected in that country, Ambazonians had to die for it. Should this be a cause for Ambazonians to join?
I say absolutely no. A categorical no. You will remember when I got to the United States on the 25th of January 2017, Jeune Afrique Économique published an article. Barrister Harmony Bobgat dribbles the Cameroon government and surfaces in Washington. Because 2 days after I arrived, there was a demonstration before the French embassy, and our folks took me there, and everybody was trying to interview me, and I was explaining stuff to them. Look, the problem we have is that even the majority of Southern Cameroonians, because we have all enlisted in the University of Warsaw, instead of sitting down, researching and cross-checking information the traditional way, and again, because our population is quite youthful, people don't know the truth. More than 70%, and this is a conservative estimate, of Ambazonians were born after we had been overtaken and occupied. So they don't even know. But someone like myself, I was born on the 28th of June, 1958. That was in southern Cameroon, not even West Cameroon. And by some stroke of luck, my dad used to be chief clerk and paymaster general of the Common Printing Press when I was still in class 4 in primary school. So almost all the gazettes of Southern Cameroon and West Cameroon, I had the opportunity of reading them from primary school. And I I knew the details of our transition. My dad was also a member of the Cameroon Youth Movement that was fighting the Igbos that were terrorizing us. So I come from the crucible of a revolution begun against me, but asphyxiated or attempted to be asphyxiated all along by the Cameroon government in collaboration with the NATO members led by France. So what I'm saying is this: thanks to the modern technology where we can educate people very fast, we need to use a media like yours to educate southern Cameroonians about their identity. I was opportune from class 5 in primary school, Kumba, to interact with late Mbile, who was very opposed to the idea that they should just conclude Fumba, where the leaders went there and they kind of put them into stupor through young girls who were massaging them and champagne that they had moved from their palm wine to drinking champagne. So we must know, in fact, we need to produce red cards and send to the phones of everybody in southern Cameroon and in the diaspora. We have never been part of La République du Cameroun. There is no act of union. And on that account, we can only deal with one issue. What is this issue? The issue is that God has ordained that La République du Cameroun is our neighbor. And I can cite historical examples. When the French fought the Bassas and the Bamenikis, they crossed over to southern Cameroon and took refuge. The French could not move into southern Cameroon to pursue them. Reason being that we're a separate country. So, is there any of these people hiding behind the smoke screen of Cameroon establishment who can show us an act of union that has changed the situation? No. But remember, when it will become hot, and it is becoming hot already, and I had been talking about this for the past 9 years, that La République du Cameroun is going to implode. Their refugees will come over to southern Cameroon. And on strict humanitarian reasons, we cannot torture them. We cannot reject them. But if they are rebels, we can extradite them back to their place. Because if Ngongo crosses the boundary, he has to go back and face the powder keg that has exploded under his feet. We would insist, therefore, that we welcome His Excellency Issa Chiroma's olive branch, which to me is an offer for us to dialogue unconditionally about the predicament of southern Cameroon. I have had the opportunity to talk with some Francophone intellectuals. A person like Maurice Kamto in 2016 invited me to the headquarters of his party and was telling me that we need to collaborate. I told him, hell no, we are collaborating where? For what and for who? We are not part of your system. We are restoring and developing our own system. We will collaborate as Pan-Africanists, but not as members of one nation. They went to the international and the Constitution, the International Court of Justice, and the basis upon which they laid their claim on Bakassi was that we were part of German Cameroon. That's so dumb. It is either intellectual dishonesty or gross incompetence in reading simple stuff and interpreting it. Because after the First World War, the German possessions were completely and definitively liquidated. And the idea of a trust is that you hold a legal title for a period, and when the beneficiary comes of age, you transfer that legal title to them. Britain failed to do that for us. And we cannot blame them, because a lot of people don't even understand. There is no difference between France and Britain. All of their royalties are connected to the Germanic House of Hanover. So their collaboration is constant. And we in Southern Cameroon were used as a trade-off. If you go by road to Ghana, when you get to the border between Togo and Ghana, you realize that as soon as you cross the Ghanaian Togolese border, you have the Togolese people, Ewe people, right up to the immediate outskirts of Accra. So the whole of Ho and Volta region and so on, that is part of Togo. So we were traded off to the French because the French also traded off the Ewe people to the British. They don't see us as humans. They treat us as pawns, because when they look onto us, they see but our resources in the subsoil. They don't see human beings moving around there. And this is what we have to be very conscious of. We have to know that we are who we have always been, and I can tell you, if not of the information I have in my head, I would never have left Cameroon. But I knew if I stayed there, after having been notified that orders had been given for me to be assassinated, it's not only myself who will lose my life, but Ambazonia will lose resources that they need to march on with. So it is a no-no. We will support Issa Chiroma from a Pan-Africanist standpoint, and as a neighbor that we don't have a choice, we will collaborate with them. I had a discussion with a big brother sometime on this kind of program, and he was telling me about the ossification that we have been with the Francophones for so long. Foul. Let me talk like Zebediah. Foul. That cannot work. The fact of the matter is that in 1963, the OAU has settled it that we accept the colonial boundaries and stick to it. So now,
let me stop you a little bit there. I'd like to take you back to something. What sparked the Ambazonian struggle back in 2016? You, the lawyers, protested the decimation of the Anglo-Saxon legal system in the southern Cameroons. The teachers stood up against the bastardization of the educational system. I want you to do me a critical appraisal here. It's been 9 years, and they have had their grand national dialogue with other things. Please, I'd like you to do a critical and honest appraisal. Has anything changed in the legal system in Amazonia since this war started? In other words, did Cameroon kind of felt a sense of remorse and said, let's do something about the grievances of the lawyers and of the educational system? Has that happened?
No. In fact, you would like to know that most of the Francophone magistrates and judges are still within our territory. In fact, the higher judicial council, let me just tell you, the higher judicial council that does transfers of magistrates and promotion has not sat since this problem started. So all the people we said that you pull out are still there. But that's not where the problem is. Mind you, the keynote presentation that I can now tell you was, it is out of it that the resolutions were summarized. Were in my laptop, it was in my laptop for almost 2 years. And nobody knew about it. No, not even in my office. And you may understand that I use the lawyer's stuff as a slit from which we could crack the glass ceiling and start the revolution. In fact, the day I mooted that idea that we should have a conference, I was terrorized by some CPDM lawyers in Bamenda who threw all sorts of invectives on me. I remember I shed tears in front of the lawyers, and I decided I was going me home. Then the youth stood up and said, hell no. You are the only one who is talking and looking into the future of your children. Come back, we are behind you. That's how I came, and we set up a small committee, and we went to Kumba, went to Boya, and also to Manfe to market the idea, and it was bought, and we took off with it. Since that day, if anything has happened, they have only tightened the knot on our neck against our demand. They have recruited more idiots, including even traditional rulers from Amazonia, to chant one and indivisible. Whether or not the 2 cubes of sugar are responsive to the solution into which they have been put. But trust me, it is just a matter of time. I will not discuss certain things in this public space, but let me just give you a hint. We need to fix our organization and strategy, because we have had too many fissures amongst us, and the enemy has penetrated us well and proper. But because God Almighty has his hand over the restoration of the identity and the right to self-determination of Ambazonia articulated to independent statehood, you can bring the Atlantic Ocean and put onto the 2 cubes of sugar, it will never work. And I can tell you today why the concept of 2 cubes of sugar is false and is not working, because we have never been 2 cubes of sugar. We have always been one people. The construction of Southwest and Northwest is the construct of the neo-colonial masters. That is La République du Cameroon. So what you need to understand is that we need to organize ourselves very fast. And I want to appreciate the fact that you told us in the town hall that you had withdrawn from leadership, although I've never recognized any of those multiple IGs for one office, but you have demonstrated that there is a bigger picture we should be looking at. The nation of Ambazonia, over and beyond our private ambitions and interests. Because there is so much in Ambazonia that even if the foreign interests come and work with us, there is more than enough for every single Ambazonia to live like people in Saudi Arabia or Libya of yesterday or Singapore. But in the foolishness of looking only at the corn and granite and cocoa, we are unable to settle, to bring the elephant home before we start sharing. We are sharing in the bush and people are unable to carry their own pieces home.
Mr. Bobga, you are still there. I can see you, sir.
I did say that I wanted to greet.
Give me
I
your
wanted to
take
greet
on
my
this
colleague.
appointment of Barrister Alice Income as the spokesperson for Isa Chiroma. She also made a revelation that I don't think many people know. The inauguration of Isa Chiroma, the swearing in of Isa Chiroma as president. I'm sure you heard her. What do you make of that? Barrister Bobga, please.
I think it's very okay. If you study most revolutions, you will see that that is not a novelty. Are you hearing me 5 on 5?
5 on 5.
Okay. The only sad thing is that I wanted to greet Madame Alice Com, but you didn't give me the chance. I texted you.
Well,
anyway,
sorry, I didn't get it because I was using the phone with her.
No problem. This is what I have to say. It is perfectly all right for His Excellency, and that's why I call him His Excellency Issa Bakari Chiroma. You remember the case of the current president of the Gambia?
Yes.
He was sworn into office not on Gambian soil, but in Senegal.
Dakar, yes.
Yes. So all it takes is that you are the legitimate person, and the process of the swearing in, given the circumstances, can take place anywhere. We stay in Bali. But in Vimanka, that's when you deliver a baby on the hill where there's no stream, you use urine to give the child the first bath. That doesn't change her from being a baby or him being a baby. It's still a human being. And it only makes the circumstances special that he is sworn out of the territory. And let me tell you something. You have listened to Brother Eric Chinje. There is a lot of backstage nonsense that is going on, trying to bend the arm of His Excellency Isa Chiroma that he should be compensated somehow and then pull back from his insistence on his success at the election. And again, the French are behind all kind of nonsense. It is an attack, not on Cameroon with impact on Ambazonia. It is an attack on the sovereignty of Africans. And little Macron should stop that nonsense.
Who is little Macron in this case?
Pardon?
Who is little Macron in this case?
The president of France is he not my younger brother?
Okay.
Just small boy. Yes. Look, the problem here is that our people should understand that what has been done with the appointment of
Alice.
Madame Com. I was going to call her, tell her that she had been elevated to La Reine, the queen of rights of the people. Mind you, the Europeans, our friends and enemies in Europe and the West, are always very mischievous. Before Mandela was free, the European Union created something they call European Parliamentarians for South Africa. Because they saw that if the ANC wins the war on the battlefield, that's the end of the white people in South Africa. So they now set up that stuff and then pump money into it and started negotiating so that it was they who would appear to have initiated the negotiation, just so they could protect their investments in the gold and diamond mines and more in South Africa. This problem we are having in Cameroon is because Chiroma has come on stage as a thunderbolt. If France had known and negotiated with Chiroma, thank God it did not happen. They would have told Biya, you get out of here. Just the way they dumped Bokassa, the same way they dumped Mobutu. And that is what we have to learn. That we are the only ones who are responsible for our own destiny. There's no helper out there.
But Barrister, is it late for the French to say, Paul Biya, get out of there? Is it late?
Look, it is not late, but humility is not one of the things that the Europeans are blessed with. Their arrogance dictates their foreign policy towards Africa. They think they have a right. Did they have a reason to kill Gaddafi and many other people? That's arrogance and impunity. which is unconscionable. And what I'm saying is this. What is going on in La République du Cameroon, only 30% of it is benefiting La République du Cameroon. It is heralding a new renaissance in Africa. 2 days ago, I watched a video of the former president of Botswana when he was accepting the bestowment of an honorary doctorate on him from a university in Kenya. He spoke and even referred to Cameroon. And we need to understand that there is an awakening that is sweeping across Africa. And I think Mr. Chiroma has thought really wise. We have been undermining the power of the women. I recall you are a pastor. We say that we are physical and spirit beings. Very few people will stop and reflect on the equality between man and woman when in Genesis we are told that they took only a rib bone. God took only a rib bone from the side of Adam to create woman. God balanced it up by making the woman spiritually loaded. I can tell you the power of the woman which has been ignited in my colleague Lorraine Alice Com is more than 1 million men in Cameroon, because nobody is going to touch her. We, her children, other women who have shed blood to deliver every woman and every other man, will be praying for her, and she will be shielded. She will be beyond just a spokesperson. She's going to be a lot more. If I were to advise Issa Chiroma, that should be the Prime Minister when he fully takes control of that country.
But then, Barrister, people are out there and they are saying, don't you think Alice Income at 80, she is 80 years old, that she's quite old for that position, and talk less of the position of a Prime Minister or Vice President as we are suggesting? What happened to the youth?
Let me tell you something. I am 67 plus. But I have the energy of a 35-year-old. Look at Madame Com. There are girls who are younger than her. The only thing they can do is paint their nails. She's blessed with the physical and spiritual energy. And mind you, Issa Chiroma is not saying that he is going to establish a government like a Bia's government. He is talking of a transitional government. If Madame Com were to go there just symbolically for 1 year or two, and then hand over to one of her grandchildren, that is going to be a monumental recognition of our mothers. I can give you an example. My foster mother in England, when I was studying there, is currently the Vice President of Malawi. But there is a Deputy Vice President, a young man of 40 or below. And the President himself is quite old. I can see in the arrangement a smooth constitutional transfer of power without the manipulative style of La République du Cameroon. Because the spirit that Madame Com carries is protective, not only of herself, but of all of us who are engaged in supporting Issa Chiroma. Please don't misinterpret it. I'm supporting Issa Chiroma as a Pan-Africanist without losing my identity as an Amazonian blue blood.
So let me ask you this question then. It is related. Issa Chiroma takes over, become the president of La République du Cameroon, and he has figures like Alice Income behind him, people that you think that have integrity. And he says to Ambazonians, I am not for the separation of Cameroon, but I want to sit down with you so we can have a talk. What would be your predisposition to that idea?
When you offer to negotiate or to have a talk with somebody, it is a step in the direction of an open mind. Let me tell you, Francophones, if I may use that word, are more brainwashed about the history of the Republic of Cameroon than we are. And I speak from the vantage point of somebody who has been in this revolution since the age of 11, 12. On a consistent basis, when I went to Calabar in 1981, if I may fast forward, I became the Deputy Secretary General of NUCS, National Union of Cameroon Students in Nigeria. The following year, I was substantive Secretary General. The next year, I became Vice President of NUCS Africa. And while I was in the law school, I became the President General of NUCS Africa. And the secret agenda of NUCS has always been to fight for the rights of Southern Cameroonians. And what we are saying is that I am glad to have somebody like Madame Com. She's a lawyer, and I will ask her the question. See, my very senior colleague, if you were to be the president of the Constitutional Council, and the file that Harmony Bob Gambuton put on behalf of common law lawyers, and one of the prayers is produce the Act of Union before we can listen to you with respect to Southern Cameroon. Would he, with every evidence showing that we have never had an Act of Union, decide otherwise? Because that would be bringing down the mountain of integrity that she has built throughout her career. She would rise above everything and do justice according to law. And I have had the opportunity of speaking with His Excellency Issa Chiroma, and I told him, we welcome your olive branch and we will talk, but I'm an Ambazonian. The same way I spoke to Professor Kamto and any Cameroon lawyer, because I'm a member of the Cameroon Bar, I'm a member of the Nigerian Bar. That has nothing to do with my status and identity as an Ambazonian. I have been very consistent about our separate identity in all our general assemblies. And this is known. I have always told people I'm not interested in power or position in this our struggle, but there is one thing I will appeal to them, to you people. And what is it going to be? Give me an opportunity to contribute to the negotiations. To contribute to the negotiations. Because whether within our own selves, I am ready to produce all the documents, not the voluminous things that you people produced some time back called Restoration Charter. No. We're going to produce quintessential legal documents that will move us forward. And in the same vein, we are not going to go romantically towards the invitation of His Excellency Isa Chiroma. We're going to tell him outright, we have to sit down, we have to talk and talk law and truth and justice.
Okay.
And I am confident that in spite of everything, I can pull that through. And that explains to you why some of you were corrupted to believe that I am an enfant terrible. It is because the enemy knows that I am unbending. More than 17 years ago, the French government approached me that they wanted me to facilitate their becoming friendly with the SCNC and that I should come alone for us to have the preliminary discussion. They came to the Franco-Cameroon Alliance in Bamenda and I shocked them. I took the leader of one of the leaders of SCAPO and we went to the meeting and they were very angry.
Barrister, let's get back to the issues of the day, please. Let's get back to the issues of the day. As you affirmed a few minutes ago,
yes.
For 9 years, Cameroon has neither reformed the Anglo-Saxon legal system nor the educational system. Now, you find the argument among Ambazonians that, oh, let us stop the war, let's give up on the struggle because people are suffering, lots of people are suffering, people are dying. What is your opinion about giving up on the grounds that there is a lot of suffering and people are dying?
Let me correct one thing, that we come back to the issue of the day. Just understand me. The Ambazonian predicament and the effort of Ambazonians to unpack it cannot be segregated in terms of time frame. There is a connection right from the run-up to the plebiscite up to our present moment. So when you see me go back and forth, it is because our story must be comprehensively presented. Coming back to the moment, I continue to insist that we are not party to what La République is facing. Those, our so-called elite, who are over there and, you know, waxing strong in corruption, the truth about it is that I consider them like expatriates or people who have nationalized, and they are free to do that. You know? But one thing is clear. God had made it that La République du Cameroon and Ambazonia have a common land boundary. So if they burn pepper in their kitchen, it will enter our eyes in our own living room. If we burn pepper, it will enter their own eyes in that living room. So there is no way we can be indifferent. But that question of not being indifferent about the internal affairs of the neighbor doesn't mean we have become part of that problem. We are not. We are only involved to the extent that it impacts us. And how does it impact us? For the first time in our history, it is impacting the election, the presidential election, and the person who won is impacting us positively because he is ready to talk to us. But the gentleman who insists on being who he is not has always treated us and even Francophones like nobody. There is an Aton guy. I mean, there's a guy who told me once that when you say, Monsieur le Président, vous vous comportez comme un blanc, he smiles. He's very happy. So even though this is a black man from Bulubeti Ekang area, in his mind, because he's a tool of the French, he thinks that he has become a Caucasian. To hell with him. We need to be able to stand up. Look, I prefer to spend 99% of my energy fast-tracking the preparation of Ambazonian to seize the moment and rescue ourselves. And get this clear with what is going on. I am not a prophet. I'm not a religious like you, but I can tell you my reading of the times tells me that in the coming months, we might have a 3 months of darkness and bloodletting in Yaoundé.
And that takes me to my monologue for the day. I mentioned a possible civil war in Cameroon, where you have the fracturing of the country into 4 parts. Let's assume that Amazonia is gone. You are left with the Bassa, the Douala axis. You are left with the Ngandre, Marawa axis. And then you have the central, the south, and the east axis. You put them together, all together 4. If Issa Chiroma can gather enough support and enough troops, because at this moment, he cannot rely or depend on the ballot to take back the presidency. He has to depend on some level of physical force, and that means picking up arms. If that happens, are you right? I mean, do you see it with me that it is very possible that Cameroon could be further fractured into a situation where you have Yaoundé, the east and south defending their elite? And you know, the Awusa saying, once more it is our power, it is our time to retain power that Ahijo left. And the Bassas and the Bablikis are saying, we have been cheated for so long, we've never held power, it is time for us to get it. And Ambazonia says, well, you guys go on and dance your dance. We let the music flow a long time ago. Do you see that scenario coming?
No, let me correct you there. When you discuss those things about the fragmentation of La République du Cameroon, just keep Ambazonia out. I have told you consistently that we have no business there because there's no act of union. You can deal with their own issues. And I can tell you, about 5 years after Biya got into power, there is a Betty general who said, the rest of Cameroon can go away. We can stand on our own as a state, that is center, south, and east. And I was doing some research recently, and I fell on information that the French colonial administrator of French Congo, that is Congo-Brazzaville, he had mooted the idea of a Betty nation, which included this center, south, east, Gabon, and Congo-Brazzaville. Because those are Beti Bulu Ekang people, they are one people. And when this general was speaking, he said they have the arms, they have the money, they have the position. They can do whatever they like. But mind you, in international geopolitics, the West is not going to allow that. Even right inside La République, the French had advised a separation, a division of the Bassas, because there are some Bassas, there have been a Bassa kingdom, Le Royaume Bassa. There is part of that kingdom in the South province, the South region, and part of it in Littoral. Just like they came and separated Southern Cameroon into two, divide and rule. But even if they chose to go that way, I will find it more welcoming to ally with Northern Cameroon, still on that principle of mutual recognition and respect, perhaps on a confederal system, not even federation. And if you go into the archives and read, because that's what I spend most of my time doing, the cane established by the British in their boundary with the French is not in Mongo, it is in the Bombari. So the developed part of Douala is even part of Southern Cameroon. When they invoke German Cameroon was totally liquidated. If you want to restore it, you need to bring back Gabon, you need to bring Congo, you need to bring the mainland Equatorial Guinea, you need to bring back the southern Chad where most of the oil is found. The multinationals provide the money that the politicians in the West operate with. Who is going to allow that?
Let me ask you another question. Yeah. You have a situation where Amazonians have cried of marginalization, underdevelopment, and abandonment, and the elite, and here I mean the Amazonian elite, the Dion Gutes, the Paula Tangangis, the Ngoles, the Ngala Jerets, and so on and so forth, the Ofi Chinje. In fact, I'm reading, somebody just sent me an article here in the course of this program that says, Ofi Chinje, Ofi Melo Chinje, CPDM campaign team leader for Ngo Ketunjia division. They have already started their local elections campaign, which I believe is coming up not sometime next year, but they've started that. So you have the problem in the southern Cameroons of this so-called elite. Dion Ngute goes to Victoria and he tells the people in Victoria and all of Amazonia, no, Kribi cannot refine oil with Sonora in Victoria. And yet now we know there is a refinery built in Kribi and they are transporting oil, crude oil through trucks to Kribi for refinement. What can Amazonians do to this so-called elite who lie to keep their positions in La République du Cameroon?
See, those people are in the minority. The challenge is about people posturing.
They may be in the minority, but the damage they cause is huge.
Can I take my thought through?
Sure.
Yes. Look, those people have a choice. I told you, they can choose to be expatriates or naturalized citizens like most of you are in the United States. What we need, and I can assure you this, the day Amazonians, particularly in the diaspora, start speaking with one voice, all those fellows they will retract. They will retract. They have no influence. Ufe, that you are talking about, she came to my residence in Bali to come and convince me that I should tell the lawyers to stop the fight. Almost all of them, the elite in the Northwest, they came to my house. And then one of my clients, a businessman, said Bia had commissioned him that I should come and he talks to me. I said, I'm not coming alone. He insisted I should come alone. I refused. I went there with the leader of the president in Manu at the time. Bala was supposed to come, but he lost his father, so he couldn't come. Eyambe was depending on Bala providing the ride. He did not come. But Neba Fontem was there. And the memo that I wrote rejecting the proposal from Bia, I remember I told them, I told in my conversation, I told the person who invited our host that, look, my father was third batch in Sase College, and I was delivered 13 years after he left Sase College in 1945 and started working. So by all standards, I was born into upper middle class in southern Cameroon. I'm not a poor man, and I've never been a poor man as much as I've never aspired to be a rich man. Get it from me. They offered me the opportunity of choosing what ministerial portfolio to take. They offered me money, and I said, hell no. You remember the temptation of Christ, where he told the devil, man does not live only on bread. Thank God I'm a Christian. I invoke the protection of our Lord, and that was the answer that I gave them. Don't mind the distraction that people used to climb to the position that they wanted. Mogamo, one of our most industrious counties, is now in shreds because they were corrupted that their grandson, Harmony Bob Gambuton, is a Bali man. And hell no, you don't allow a Bali man to lead. I was not even interested in leading. Leading for what? I believe in leadership like Christ. Leadership by service. Leadership by service. So, the non-violent approach that I have is that I will never engage in it. But I have not by that token said, if you are attacked, you should not fight back. What we are doing in Ambazonia is self-defense. The only error is that we did not organize ourselves properly. Let me tell you, when the war was going on in Sierra Leone, the British government was officially authorizing the sale of arms to the government and secretly allowing other companies with clearance to supply arms to Fode Sanko. The Sun newspaper threatened that they were going to publish the authorization that government had given for arms to be supplied to
Fode Sanko.
To Fode Sanko. Because I have access to this information through my human rights activism that took me around the world, you guys never listened. You just saw me as a competitor and dumped me. And of course I retreated. But now I can tell you, it is not late. Our mistakes have been made.
Who was seeing you as a competitor, Barrister Bobga? Because I can remember that when Sisiko was picked up, elections were conducted, you were on the list of those who were vying to take over from
No. Correction.
Sisiko.
I said I was not interested.
Let me just make the point and finish, then you reply. You were among the list.
Yeah.
And I was there too. Sako, Anyangwe, Milton Taka, and so many others. Elections were carried out, and who won? Why do you think that you were pushed
No.
aside?
Let me explain to you. There was a lot of manipulation. You won that election. And people said no, they prefer Sako. So they were behaving exactly like Paul Biya is behaving.
But
You are the one who won the election.
I know that. But you were not pushed aside, though.
No, I refused that. I didn't want to participate in the election because I was not interested in leadership. You remember when the cabinet said I should take over from Sako? I refused and insisted. And everybody was saying that, no, you cannot do that. You all started this from back home. I said, okay, it would have to be a triumvirate. That's how they brought the traditional ruler from Wisconsin, who is from Lebialem, and they brought a lady from Mugamo, and we operated as a triumvirate. In the triumvirate, it is that traditional ruler who said...
Chief Fonkem and Nancy, yes. And the three of you form a collegiate to lead at that time.
No, I called it a triumvirate. And Chief Fonkem insisted, not behind the back, but in the cabinet meeting, that, Leabogga, you are knowledgeable in this thing. You are the one who is going to be the chair of this triumvirate. I said, sir, you are a traditional ruler, you are a professor, you are senior, you should be. He said, no. I found myself in that position. And it is on record, on video, how after that I was denigrated. And I said, yeah, why are these people behaving like this? Because I've never been interested. If I research it, I will show you the video in due course. But the fact of the matter is that I tried to educate us that I wasn't interested in power opposition. I wanted to share my knowledge to move the process forward. And I was sympathetic for our brothers who had been abducted. I know very well that when you said you wanted to go to Nigeria immediately, in my capacity as the chair of the triumvirate, I said, I cannot let my brother go into where I know is not secure. You convinced the cabinet that you had worked in Nigeria, you knew what we were going to do, and I was the one to sign for the money for your ticket, which I did, but it did not cover exactly what you requested, because I was looking at other demands that were put before me. That said, you would remember what happened in April in Houston, where we had a meeting in a hotel. We had to drop our phones. We don't need to resurrect that. We chatted about it, how I had forgotten my medication. Seriously, the organizers of the meeting invited me with a one-way ticket. And when I saw a threat to my life inside that meeting, which I spoke to, this is not something we can discuss in public. I arranged, and I had a first-class ticket. First thing in the morning, I flew to Dallas and left the place. Because the first time I came, I had a warm reception in your church. Everybody was happy. And then from there, we went to Arizona and so on and so forth. But that second trip, God alone took me out of the trap. But what I'm saying is that we are human. We err. But like Christ said, he didn't come to look for the saints. He came to look for the lost sheep. And because we have a bigger picture in front of us, which is Amazonia, I am citing your example to a lot of people that you have shown an example. Sako should explain to us, why is it that he is not ready to collaborate with anybody as far as it implies a shaking of his position? So I will tell you democratically, the majority of the people will carry the day. If you continue, lobbying with the other leaders and they come and agree that this is the majority of people who have been vying for that position, they are no longer there. We are working as one person, as a team. Then we move on. You have been talking to Siseko. You talk to Marianta. You know, there are the Federalists. There are the Unitarists. There are so many factions. That is the housekeeping we need to do. When we do that housekeeping, and it is urgent, it is like an emergency surgery without anesthesia. We got to do it so that we can set our sail to the wind that is blowing now and not get stuck on the sand dunes of the revolution. So we should not drift anymore. We have drifted enough.
Would you come in and be at the center of this rebuilding that you are suggesting? Because sometimes our people have lots and lots of ideas, but when it comes to the practical work, you don't see them. You don't see the people. But I'm telling you, we have lots of experts out there who tell us what should be done, what should have been done, and so on. But then when it comes to doing it, you don't see them. Would you
I don't need to be physically present, but I don't need to be physically present.
What do you mean by that?
No, what I mean is this. You who knows me before Fusi, you had difficulty getting my number. It's Engineer Mike Fusi who gave my number to you.
I lost your number.
He must have told you that.
I lost it, I think, in August when my phones
Yes, maybe.
Yeah.
Your phones were taken.
Yeah.
So let me tell you, the commitment I gave myself before I brought lawyers together was that I was using my professional and academic competence to support any individual or any group of individuals who are engaged in the furtherance of this struggle. And I have been consistent on that. If you inquire, nobody has asked me for an opinion and I said no. Our younger brother in is it Norway?
Is that Ayaba?
Ayaba.
Yeah, in Norway.
Yes. I was invited by some group of Amazonians, and I even developed a strategic plan for his defense, because I said the worst Amazonian, so long as he has that national DNA, we are not going to wash our dirty linen in public. When we will be home and we are doing truth and reconciliation, we will ask questions. People will answer. If they answer correctly, they will be forgiven. So that we build a nation on reconciliation and not bitterness. But that is a person who had gone on the air and announced, without having ever had any interaction with me, that I was the most corrupt lawyer from Cameroon.
Who went on the air and announced that?
Choayaba.
Oh, okay.
But I just took it like, you know, some childishness, because that's not something that anybody, I give the challenge. I know how the corruption in Cameroon is infectious. But by God's grace, not by my own power, I remain a fish in fresh water as far as that is concerned. Even here, the Ofe you were talking about, when they came campaigning, she called me that I should come and meet her in her hotel room at 10 p.m. I sent a memo to her. I said, take it to your boss. And when you go to Yaoundé, you table it that that's my position, that the independence and separate identity of Ambazonia is unshakable. I still have that memo somewhere. So, if you look, when the United States Institute of Peace invited Ambazonians, I was also invited. But before I go to such places, I study them. When I went there, I asked a few questions. I cross-examined the main presenter there, and I saw that he was just playing a circus with us. And I told them, I don't need your per diem, I don't need your hotel, I'm going to take care of myself. And when I left from there, some people were very bitter. Even some people from your group, they threw invectives on me. And I just chuckled and walked away. Fusi can tell you. So, what we are dealing with now is facing the enemy and not facing ourselves. Our disagreements in the house, we shall have to deal with it. Let's keep that in the parking lot, because it's not even an issue. When once this power thing is over, like, for example, I think that the next Prime Minister of Southern Cameroon should be max below 40 years old. Those of us who are old should play advisory positions. You know, if somebody feels like it, you can even go to the legislature. If you want a mature person in the judiciary, those who still have the energy, they can go there. But we have spent our time. We need to just give the support to the young people, and I can tell you, with their energy, we are going to have the nation that we want and that God demands of us to leave to our children.
All right, let's leave it there. Let's open the
Yes, Papa.
Let's open the phone lines for